All right. Welcome to the Monday edition of Smoke and Mirrors Podcast, your destination for the latest in movie news. I am your host, Rob, and this week we're talking casting for some major productions. Our first rumblings um, of Maria Bakalova's new action flick, and update you on the latest rumblings and rumors in Hollywood. Now let's start the show. All right, so let's kick it off with some casting here. So Matt Berry from What We Do in the Shadows, very hilarious Matt Berry, has joined the Minecraft film, still directed by Jared Hess from Napoleon Dynamite and starring Jason Momoa. No other details on his casting at all, but I like Matt Berry. He's funny. Renata Ransford has joined Pedro Pascal in Zach Cregger's Weapon. So this is the follow-up to Barbarian that all the studios kind of vied for and they were bidding for like crazy. So that sounds really exciting. So this is the one that's going to be like like Magnolia, the Tom Cruise one. So that I mean, it sounds different. Like it's still like a multi-story arc, so taking a lot of that identity from movies like Identity, but also Barbarian, and then yeah, new premise. Sounds pretty cool. Dira Varma from Game of Thrones and the latest Obi-Wan series has joined Doctor Who as the Duchess. So she'll be in one of the episodes that come out, which is pretty cool. I like her. Rossa Salazar has joined Captain America New World Order. We got some set pics the other week, and it confirmed that a WWE wrestler Seth Rollins or Seth freaking Rollins was in the movie, and then there was some mystery character next to him, and now that's being confirmed as Diamondback, and Ross Salazar is playing her, which is pretty cool. So they're part of the Serpent Society, which will play a part in uh, the overall plot. So some Mortal Kombat 2 casting there. Adeline Rudolph is playing Katana in um, in Mortal Kombat, which is pretty cool. That's shooting soon in Queensland here in Australia. I like that. I love the first one, so this is exciting. She's from the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, and I think Tati Gabrielle was also in there. She was a co-star on that show, and she's playing Jade. So I mean that'll be pretty cool because those characters are supposed to be close anyways. And then lastly in casting, massive name in Will Ferrell is going to play another massive name in John Madden. So for David O. Russell, he's going to be directing the picture. He directed last year's Amsterdam, I believe it was, which was a massive flop, but had an amazing cast. I never watched the film, so I don't know how good or bad it is. Maybe just let us know if you enjoyed it. If not, that's all good. And that's it for casting. All right, so on the radar, and these movies are on our radar, so they should also be on your radar. So first off, we got My Masterpiece, and this is the Maria Bakalova film, and it's an action comedy. So this one's being produced by Sylvester Stallone under his Balboa Productions banner, and it's going to be directed by Cassandra Brooksbank. And the synopsis is as follows: so it follows a hit woman hell bent on dismantling an unfair system within her industry, but she gets stuck on the second floor of an office building after she takes vengeance on a corporate overlord. That means she has to fight her way through fellow murderers in her past to ensure justice prevails. If all goes well, this might just be her masterpiece. So, I mean, yeah, cool. We've seen a rise of these sort of movies since like The Raid or Dread, where you get someone sort of working his way through the levels. And that could be all right. I like Maria Bakalova. She was pretty cool in Bodies, 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 and obviously the Borat sequel. And like she did as well as she could in a voiceover role for Guardians 3. But this might give her more range. I know that a lot of actors kind of do the dramatic or the comedy piece, and then they try out action. So I mean, this is good in her progression. So we've also got what's kind of been a long gestating since 2017, 2019. spin-off in the works. This one, a female Fast and Furious, which Vin Diesel has kind of been hinting at for a very long time. So he said he can only launch these spin-offs once the saga is completed, and with that first of two-part, potentially three-part um, saga coming to an end, it's getting time to sort of ramp up those spin-offs. I'm not too sure what the angle is with the spin-offs because I mean the Fast and Furious itself is quite diverse and it's got members of sort of most groups in it. So I'm not too sure what having a specific female-led one will bring when there's such strong female characters in Fast and Furious, anyways. I don't know what story they're going to tell, if it's going to be an all-female racing group or what, but or maybe the protagonist will just be female. We don't know. We'll see what happens and what Vin kind of releases to the media next. And lastly, so James Cameron at a Dell presentation conference type such setting confirmed that he is writing a new Terminator. I'm not too sure what this man's doing, writing a new Terminator when he's working on Avatars 3, 4, 5, kind of back to back. But it's the first time that he's actually writing a Terminator since Terminator 2. So the last two, I think he produced, which he didn't really have a hand in except for maybe some story details or producer notes that he kind of had. And I know that he argued with Tim Miller a lot on the production of Dark Fate, with that movie coming in as a massive bomb. I think one of the biggest bombs in all film history. So take from that what you will. I'm excited that he's developing a new Terminator movie. This is kind of like him going back to his roots and what he kind of started on. It was interesting because in the conference he said, I haven't finished it because I'm looking to see where AI is kind of going, which to me sounds like he's taking real world events and sort of these timely incidents and kind of what's happening in the landscape of AI and inputting it in here so it all kind of connects, which kind of sounds interesting. I'm not too sure they didn't confirm reboot. Reboot, I think, right now would be the only way I would want to watch a new Terminator. But in saying that, the last three iterations of Terminator have kind of been rebooty. So ever since Terminator 3, there's never really been connective tissue that's directly, besides like some CG Linda Hamilton or Edward Furlong and Arnie, there's never been anything that's been like the main trio of actors, Michael Biehn, Linda Hamilton, or Edward Furlong, besides Arnie being in there. So that could be cool. I mean, I'm not against it, but I'd rather see it as a completely redone story, and that's it's probably the only time you'd really hear me say remake or pull the remake card. We'll see what James Cameron does in 2035 because he's going to be making Avatar movies for the next decade. All right, and that's it for on the radar news and developments. Some sad news because I think this has bigger implications for the rest of the film industry. So Rooney Mara and Joaquin Phoenix were in this movie called The Island, and these guys were all good, all set up, ready to go. And on the day before shooting, they get told that production has been halted. And the reason for that is because of all the WGA strike that's currently happening. Then we got the impending SAG-AFTRA strike that could be going forward after negotiations take place on June 6th. But then we've also got a potential DGA strike. So because of that, um, there's a lot of companies that will not finance the film and insure the film. So studios are fine because they insure the films themselves. So these big tent poles and whatnot, they all put up that bond money to insure the film. But it's these smaller to mid indie films which will fall by the wayside because they will get external companies to then fund their films. Now, I'm the last person to kind of jump in and say things like I'm all for the indie experience because a lot of those films end up being very self-serving and um, sad to be sad. And that's, I mean, it's cool, the perspective and whatnot, but I will never go back to an indie film. Nomadland was great, and I always bring this up. Nomadland was great, but I will never watch that movie again. I'm like, but I'm there for the experience, right? But in saying that, mid-range indie films aren't just like these sorts of movies. There are other films, other action B movie type situations that also go get funding from these companies. Those movies I'm a massive fan of. So in saying that, those movies might also fall by the wayside as well, which only leaves one sort of film, which is the studio self-insured movie, which means that we'll get a lot of exec-driven um, Transformers sequels or sequels, remakes, and reboots that we don't necessarily care for. The original IP as well, like who's going to take a risk on that with everything that's kind of been going on? And it takes a while for movies to kind of get the ball rolling on them. And at first glance, unless it's a massive idea that has been co-signed by a Steven Spielberg or Robert Zemeckis or something, those movies don't necessarily go through. So I'm interested to see where this goes, and how long these strikes last, because the impact right now across TV and movie is massive. But yeah, we'll keep you up to date on that. So we all remember the Fox Disney merger that kind of happened. So we had a ex exec of Fox who was in charge of home video before the merger come forward and say that he he pitched an idea for a direct to home video AVP show. Now, the AVP show was done before the merger kind of completed. It's 8 episodes. It's a 3D with hand drawn animated style. It's been mixed, it's been mastered, it's been recorded basically, like voiced over. It's basically done. All they have to do is just put it out. Um, he said he has no idea why it hasn't been put out, but it's kind of it's just sitting there in the Disney vault. So I'm not too sure how you would kind of go about getting that out, or if the show was so bad. But bear in mind that the animator that was actually in charge of doing this was someone that worked on the Blade Runner Black Lotus anime, which, if you look at that animation style, that's quality. So, what would they have done with that AVP IP? And to be honest, like, it sounded interesting. It's after Alien 4. So, after Alien Resurrection and after AVP. So, would it have been in that sci-fi sort of world? Is that the reason why when they get back to Earth in the alternate ending for Resurrection, that Earth is just destroyed? I don't know. Hopefully we find out because I mean it'll be interesting just as a watch. But the idea behind it was also pretty cool. So this guy said that he was using anime or these direct to home video shows as a way to kind of bridge the gap in between movies because the movies weren't coming out on a timely basis. So to keep the brand alive, this is something that he kind of thought of. And it made me think of when Disney were putting out sequels to like Beauty and the Beast 2 or Little Mermaid 3, when they did The Lion King 2 or The Hunchback of Notre Dame 2. And it was all these unnecessary direct to home video sequels because they didn't have these big budget tent poles in place or the budget big enough to kind of put into one sequel, they decided to greenlight all of them. So we'll kind of see what happens. Maybe it's something that Bob Iger will kind of consider quality once he knows about it. You don't know. He's just come back into that CEO seat again. Maybe it's something that Chapek pushed aside, and maybe Iger will pick up. We'll see down the line. If we don't hear anything about it in a year, I'm pretty sure it's dead. Um, so moving on, we all seen Quibi come and go. So it kind of came and gone within a matter of 6 to 12 months, right? Quibi didn't do as well as everyone thought. Jeffrey Katzenberg, who was a legendary CEO um, and top exec over at Disney, launched his own um, launched his own streaming service, which was Quibi. Right, he raised I think upwards of $1.25 billion to get this thing started with a projected subscriber base of I think 7 million within the first year. Quibi only managed to get 710,000 subscribers, which is a massive loss for him, right? Katzenberg, while he says yes, it was a failure and whatnot, it was a learning. What was funny is that this came out during the pandemic. It was short form media across movies and TV with some of the biggest names across Hollywood and the world kind of making content for it, right? But it sat behind a paywall. Quibi asked subscribers to pay to view this content, which is weird because we also had TikTok, which did the opposite. So in comparison, TikTok went through the roof. There was hundreds of millions of subscribers within the first couple of months of the pandemic. Everyone did those fucking dances except me. Yeah, like it just went wild, right? So I wonder if Katzenberg could go back now, if he would put a paywall up. If for him there might have been a way to just get subscribers and then use the advertising to push that to kind of increase revenue for him. To me, it was an interesting thought, right? Like they sold off all of the content for Quibi, which was from Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks and Robert Zemeckis, and I mean Die Hard, which now sits on our Stan streaming service, is a Quibi show, right? So it would have been interesting because he sold that content for peanuts to Roku, and it's flowed on now to us to watch at home and whatnot. But I'm wondering if Katzenberg would have done things differently had he seen how TikTok played out. And to be honest, I think he could have had a shot with something had he removed the paywall. If it was free content, I would have checked it out. All right. So some big news: the movie critic, which is Tarantino's new films. Tarantino revealed his inspiration for the new film. So it was this critic that Tarantino kind of fell in love with while doing deliveries for the Smut magazine. He would kind of uh, put these magazines together, and he found this critic, right? So he says he wrote about mainstream movies, and he was the second string critic, which already sounds like a pretty funny character. I think he was a very good critic. He was as cynical as hell. His reviews were a cross between early Howard Stern and what Travis Bickle, which is Robert De Niro's character in Taxi Driver, might be if you were a film critic. So, I mean that's interesting right there, considering Travis Bickle's sort of his views on the world. And he said, think about Travis's diary entries. But the porno rag critic was very, very funny. He was very rude, you know, he cursed, he used racial slurs. So, I mean, Travis Bickle might not have said it, but he was thinking it. But his shit was really funny. He was as rude as hell. He wrote like he was 55, but he was only in his mid to late, sorry, he was only in his early to mid 30s. He died in his late 30s. It wasn't clear for a while, but now I've done some more research and I think it was complications due to alcoholism. So, I mean that character sounds funny. We all thought from initial reports and synopsis and whatnot that it was based on um, another film critic that Tarantino revered coming up and reading, and a female protagonist, right? But now it's been flipped to a male protagonist, which I think is fine. I love a lot of QT's male protagonists that he puts together. Um, I mean, he's given so much to his characters to have characters like Vincent Vega and Jules from Pulp Fiction, Aldo Rain in Inglorious Bastards. So I'm looking forward to it. So he is apparently looking to cast an actor who's around 35 years old as the lead character, but he's saying it has to be an actual American, no British, no Aussie playing an American. He wants a full-on American. And is going to be a new leading man in terms of Tarantino movies. So he's not looking to grab like a Brad Pitt or a Tim Roth. Not that they're 35, but he's not looking to grab any of those guys. Any of the guys that he knows already. He wants the new guy who's going to be a new Tarantino guy. So I was thinking of just the total flip and maybe potentially someone's range, and maybe Greg Hirsch from Succession, who's played by Nicholas Joseph Braun, could play the character. I've got family members who say that Michael Cera, who would be new to the Tarantino verse, might also be great in the role. And like, yeah, it's interesting because it's not the actor based on the performances that you've seen before. Tarantino is going to take that person and completely change them. It's not like we've seen uh, DiCaprio do a performance quite like what he did with Calvin Candy. So, I mean, I'm interested in that progression as well, or that flip that he will do. I don't think he's going to take the norm actor. Um, But he's also confirmed the magazine that this character will write for is going to be called the Pop Star Pages, and that they're going into pre production on the film next month, so in July. So, I mean, Tarantino shoots quite quick. I remember when he shot Inglorious Bastards, he started at the start of the year and was able to put out a cut for Khan, which is running around now. So, what's that? In less than 6 months, which is insane. That's a crazy timeline. So I mean, I'm excited, but I'm also there's this weird feeling like Tarantino has to nail this one. Like he has to go out on the biggest bang, but the story sounds like it's the smallest story. So I'm not too sure where he's going to take this character and what journey it's going to be. But it's Tarantino, so it'll be interesting nonetheless. All right. A last piece of news, which is actually not news, but more of a rumor, right? And it shouldn't have been in this last part on news. It kind of should have been in casting, but you know what? We're here, so fuck it. Um, so this one's called the Fantastic Four rumor. So apparently, a known scooper and detail digger has pulled out what he thinks are going to be the Fantastic Four. So we've got Adam Driver, who's been rumored for months Apparently, an offer's gone out to him, and he's taken it. And he's going to play Reed Richards or Mr. Fantastic. Margot Robbie, and this is a wild, wild rumor, uh, but also rumored will be playing Sue Storm. Paul Mescal is going to be Lucius's character in the new Gladiator, Gladiator 2 for Ridley Scott. He's going to be playing Johnny Storm. So we talked about this a couple of episodes ago when there were rumors still swirling, right? And we were kind of speculating who could be who and what they're going to do with the casting and whatnot. So they've kept the Storm twins white, and Disney in their social engineering um, greatness is kind of pulled out Daveed Diggs as the thing. Now, I like Daveed Diggs. I loved him in Hamilton. He suited that character so well, and he performed the shit out of that. But there's something about his voice that just gets me, and they've apparently picked him to play the thing. Um, Now, I am completely open to being surprised. I appreciate his performance, um, but it's the voice. In every iteration of the thing, he's had this gruff sort of voice, but Daveed Diggs doesn't have that. Yes, they'll probably change his voice and whatnot, and make that be a thing of my voice has changed, and like you know, I can say things like this now. But yeah, I mean that's a big change from what I thought it might be. But interesting. Apparently, there's going to be a big reveal at a Comic Con or some sort of con-centric stage show that Marvel will kind of reveal the actors. I don't know if it'll be these actors. If it's these actors, I don't mind. Um, Adam Driver is solid, but Mr. Fantastic's also got to be a little bit out of touch, like not as social. But we'll kind of see because Adam Driver does have that innate awkwardness about him as well. I mean, Margot Robbie and Paul Mescal. I haven't seen Paul Mescal in anything. I didn't watch that movie that he just did that was Oscar nominated. But Margot Robbie's solid as well. Good character actors. And then yeah, Daveed Diggs. It'd be interesting. I wonder if through this whole casting process, if they did like throw them in a group setting to test against each other and make sure that the chemistry kind of really works. I'm interested in the look that they're going to give them and the aesthetic that they're going to go for. I know this is Matt Shackman. It's I mean, I haven't really seen the extent of their sort of their approach to film except for WandaVision. So I mean, it could be cool or it could be what every Marvel movie has kind of looked like. They all kind of have the same look. But yeah, I think the most interesting casting there is Daveed Diggs. Everyone kind of screams like, "Yeah, I could be the character as Daveed Diggs." And my history with hearing some weird casting has always been like, why the fuck would they pick that person? And then that person, Hugh Jackman, ends up being unbelievable in the role. Heath Ledger, even. And I never thought they would be. So I'm ready to be surprised. And it could be the breakout role that all of them kind of have that puts them on the map. I mean, Adam Driver and Margot Robbie are established like crazy. Paul Mescal, not so much. Daveed Diggs, yeah, he's had like he's ran a show, he's had a big hit in Hamilton, but he's never had anything that's really kind of exploded. So I mean, this will be interesting. Except for Little Mermaid. I mean, that's but who's gonna really recognize him as Sebastian when he's like He's putting on an accent as well. But yeah, I digress. That I'm happy with the casting. Like they gave us what was expected, a little bit different, and then completely like far left. But it could be great. Could be really really good. All right, that is a wrap on all the news from the week. We are back on Thursday. We got the Boogeyman premiere tomorrow. That is extremely exciting. We got finales like crazy. We got Succession finale, Yellow Jackets finale. We got the Ted Lasso finale. So it's going to be a packed week of reviews and making sure that, pardon me, one show doesn't bleed into the other. And yeah, I'm excited for what's kind of coming up, but I'm also sad because in a review sort of wrap up, it just like you just realize that about 30% of what you were watching has just kind of died off. But yeah, stay tuned. Give us a like, subscribe, keep us growing, getting us into spaces where we can get that news and reviews and come back and bring it to you. We appreciate that, and we appreciate you for checking out our little show. Yeah, love yourself, love movies, and see you next time.